The Nintendo Switch 2 was recently announced as the new and improved version of the Switch 1, but Nintendo fans quickly found out that the Switch 2 was not worth the 8-year-long wait. Between its pricing, the lag behind its competitors, and its unimpressive capabilities, Nintendo is facing more than a little backlash for what is supposed to be an immensely anticipated release. Let's get into it. I first want to start off with the Switch 2 and its capabilities, and in order to do that, we have to talk about the Switch 1, or the OG Switch. I don't really know what to call it now. The Switch was originally released in 2017 with a less than stellar processor. The chip the Switch uses, Tegra X1, was originally released in 2015, meaning that the Switch was using a chip that was 2 years old. When it was released in 2017, it was already behind Sony and Microsoft as its competitors, or the PS4 and the Xbox One. Fast forward to now. It's 2025 and the Switch 2 was just announced. The Switch 2 has a cut-down version of NVIDIA's T239 processor, which was released in 2023. Again, 2 years behind. Even today, compared to the PS5 and the Xbox Series S, the performance will definitely be a big concern for most people. For those who are following Nintendo Showcase, it seems that there is some DLSS trickery being used, as the games are looking really good. What this means is Nintendo is artificially scaling the frame rate up using deep learning. So if you have a game at 720p, DLS can use deep learning to make it 1080p, or if it's docked, up to 4K by upscaling those lower resolution frames. This oftentimes is used as a solution for performance, as DLSS has less impact than just rendering the game at 1080p. It is very possible that this could be the new solution that Nintendo fans have been asking for all of these years. But we will have to wait and see if this is it, because it could be another far-fetched claim like the 5070's performance rivaling that of the 4090s.
With the Blackwell family RTX 5070, 4090 performance at $549.
The one thing I am disappointed in is the lack of external GPU in the docking station. At the current price point of $450 USD, the included dock includes an internal fan that should allow the chip to be cooler when it's docked so it can boost higher. But I was personally hoping for an option with an attached eGPU for higher end value of the product. Without it, the Nintendo Switch 2 will have a very tough time, even with the DLSS, when competing against its rivals. Now let's move on to the hardware. The Switch 2 will come with a slightly bigger screen at 7.9 inches versus the 6.2 inches on the LED Switch, or the 7 inches on the OLED Switch. This screen will now clock up to be 120 Hz, meaning that if your game is easy enough to play undocked, that the Switch 2 will also be able to play that game at 120 frames per second. This is made better by the fact that there is now going to be VRR included in the screen, a much needed feature. This means that the GPU and screen will now be putting out the game at the same rate, resulting in smoother gameplay. If this is supported on the Switch 2 screen, then it likely means VRR will be supported when it's docked, but I can't find more information on this. However, we are, unfortunately, now back to the worst LED display, as Nintendo, for now, has gone back on the OLED displays. This means worse battery life for your Switch 2. And speaking of battery life, Nintendo's own predictions show the maximum battery life of the Switch 2 is down to 6.5 hours from the OLED Switch's 9 hours. I wonder if Nintendo is planning on doing another mid-fresh recycle with a new OLED variant like they did before. The new Joycons, however, on the surface look like direct upgrades from the Switch 1 Joycons. However, they come with a couple of twists now. Like, a mouse functionality, which I'm definitely skeptical about. Like, I feel so bad for whoever had to do the quality assurance test on this feature. Those, like, mice, if you can even call this a mouse, they look extremely uncomfortable from the trailers, just based off of, like, what we've seen so far. Like, okay, you remember those Super Mario Party games, right? When the first Mario Party game released for the Switch, so they required you to use Joycons in the game, and you basically could not play minigames without the gyro and the specific Joy-Con features. Like, people were not too thrilled about this. Hopefully, the built-in mouse feature will not be, like, required in anything, assuming Nintendo learned their lesson from Mario Party. I honestly can't imagine this functioning well, as a lot of people play their Switch while traveling, or in bed, or, you know, just like places without a flat surface or a table you can put your mouse on. I was also surprised that Nintendo is not releasing, like, some type of portable mouse pad, or even just, like, mouse pad accessory that can be used with this setup. So people can, like, more easily use, you know, the mice. In 2019, 2 lawsuits against Nintendo were filed for their terrible stick drift issues and their Joy-Con. Now, not to speak from personal experience, because I have none, but to pass it off to someone with personal experience, here is my best friend Knight to talk about the time that he had to get his Joy-Cons RMA'd.
Thanks, Mel. Personally, I've had to send my Joy-Cons twice to get RMA'd, and both times I was severely disappointed with the whole process. If someone has Joy-Cons as their only controllers, they would be unable to use the console until the RMA Joy-Cons were fixed, which can take weeks. In the meantime, anyone in this situation would be forced to either buy a Pro controller or new Joy-Cons, costing them upwards of an additional $80 on top of the $300 cost for the console itself. Now in 2025, we still do not have official confirmation whether or not Nintendo has resolved the joystick issues. There is a better option on the market today, Hall effect sensors, which use magnets instead of standard potentiometers. Since these sensors do not have physical movement and instead rely on electromagnetic readings, they do not develop stick drift as easily. If Nintendo opts to use these Hall effect sensors, stick drift would be a thing of the past, and yes, it would cost them a little bit more, but at the price point that the Switch 2 is at, it better have Hall effect joysticks. Yeesh. But more on that later. Back to you, Mel.
It seems that games themselves will eventually all be digital. Even the physical games, which are $10 more, supposedly, and as a note, this is supposedly only in the EU, are going to start to be just game keys that you don't actually own. It seems like eventually this is the direction Nintendo will be going moving forwards. Console manufacturers for years have been trying to control the game library and go digital to make it harder for folks to purchase used games, and instead, they have to purchase games directly from the console's storefront. Sony is guilty of this with the digital-only PS5 and Xbox with their Series S. However, these companies have to understand that some fans want to collect physical games for their consoles out of fear of what happens when game stores close. For example, the PS3, Xbox 360, or the Wii U stores are now closed. Games that are online only, like The Crew from 2014, are now fully online and cannot be played anymore. At the end of the day, we're just getting closer and closer to not actually owning any games. Just the licenses to play the games, but those can be revoked at any time. Nintendo is also introducing a feature called Virtual Game Cards, which will make it so that you can share virtual games like you can with physical games today. This seems to be an attempt to hide the face that we are being disincentivized to buy physical games, so when Nintendo eventually shuts down its game stores, like what they did with the Wii U. One more feature I would like to mention is Gameshare. So Gameshare is actually my favorite feature so far that was unveiled in the Nintendo trailer for the Switch 2. For the first time since Nintendo DS, you basically only need one copy of a game to play on multiple consoles. Games like Mario Party Jamboree can easily be played on the go now, assuming that, you know, everyone in your group has a Switch 2, or even like a Switch 1 if it's backwards compatible. Like, the backwards compatibility is really nice to see, and making sure that they don't have to, like, stop supporting their older consoles is definitely a step in the right direction. But how long do we think this is gonna last? The last part that I would like to talk about is the storage, which has been upgraded. It went from 32 gigabytes in the Switch to 256 gigabytes in the Switch 2. But even then, 256 gigabytes is simply not enough storage when it comes to games like Cyberpunk, which takes upwards of 100 gigabytes. We also have to keep in mind that Nintendo will reserve space for its own OS, so it's more like it's going to be 200 gigabytes for games. This means that you'll likely only be able to have 2 to 3 games on your console, and if you want any more, you're going to need to purchase an SD card. And with the way physical cards are turning into game keys that need to be installed on a system, this is definitely not enough storage, especially compared to its competitors that come with at least 500 gigabytes at the lowest SKUs. That leads me to our next section, which is talking about the pricing, the backlash, and the drama. I don't really know if I can call this drama, but let's talk about it. So, when talking about the public perception and the backlash of the Switch 2, we really need the context of the prices. So, let's talk about the prices behind the Switch 2. The Switch, as I mentioned before, is coming in at $449 USD, and that comes with the Switch, one set of Joy-Con 2s, Joy-Con 2 grips, Joy-Con 2 straps, the dock, an HDMI cable, and a power adapter. If you buy a Switch bundle, which comes with the new Mario Kart World, that is $499 USD. If you want to buy a Pro Controller, it's $79.99, and we don't yet know if the Switch 1 Pro Controllers are compatible with Switch 2, so you might have to make that purchase. An extra set of Joy-Cons is going to be $89.99. Joy-Con 2 charging grips are $34.99, Joy-Con 2 straps are $12.99, a new docking station is $109.99, and a webcam, for whatever reason, is $49.99, which we'll talk about this webcam in a little bit. Now, let's get into the games. The new prices of games have been spreading like wildfire on Twitter, especially when it comes to the price of physical game copies. Except the physical game, like I mentioned before, isn't actually a game. It's just an empty cartridge. You're paying to have the right to download that game. So this game card, there's no actual game on it. It simply tells your system once you have inserted it into your console to download the game. It's more for collecting, I guess, and aesthetic than like actually having a purpose. Charging an exorbitant amount for a non-physical game is wild. Now, there is a huge rumor going around that the physical version of the games, like Mario Kart World as an example, is going to be $80, and for the digital version, it is going to be $10 more expensive at $90. And yes, I know I mentioned this earlier in the video. Shh, this is your first time hearing it. Pretend that. So this means that you would be paying $90 for a game cartridge with no game in it. Now, I have not been able to find anything confirming this on the Nintendo website. I did hear from some friends that they saw it on the website, but I just personally can't find it. So I am saying that this is alleged, as I can't find a screenshot to prove it. But we will see. We'll see. I've been seeing so many tweets about this and articles about this as well. Because if this is true, that is actually so messed up that they're charging you an extra $10 for a valueless, empty box. Another added feature is a Discord copycat called GameChat. Using the Switch's new built-in microphone and their USB-C camera, you can now hop on a 2010 Skype call with your friends to show what game you're playing and see what games they're playing. There's even a C button on the controller specifically for GameChat. I'm not sure why they decided to reinvent the wheel here. Microsoft and Sony have been doing this for years, including Discord integration. I would love to see Nintendo integrated with Discord, honestly, especially when I'm like playing games on the go. That way you all can watch me play Animal Crossing. But if it was Discord integrated and if it was free, how would Nintendo be able to make money off of it? Because I don't know if you guys saw this disclaimer, but it's only free until the 31st of March in 2026. So that means that you're going to need a membership to even access GameChat after less than a year from now. So basically, there's a new button on your controller that you can't even use unless you pay for a subscription service. This is just starting to sound more and more like we, as gamers, don't actually own anything. Speaking of weird and random paywalls, Nintendo Switch 2's Welcome Tour is a tutorial app that you have to pay for. That's right, their Welcome Tour is not free, and I think that is absolutely wild. That should be included, right? That's not just me. Some games are getting a free update though from their Switch 1 versions, so they have better playability on Switch 2, and yay! This includes an update to fix Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. However, other games are going to be getting an update for Switch 2, but are stuck behind a paywall. This includes Breath of the Wild getting a higher frame rate, resolution, and faster load times, and a couple of other games getting added features on top of a resolution upgrade. It looks like the upgrades will be free if you have a Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack membership. I can't find a definite price online for how much these upgrade packs will cost, but according to a few online articles, it's going to be about $30 per upgrade for a game. Now, I think this is a bit ridiculous, especially if you're just upping the frame rate and the resolution. If you add new features, or like new content, or anything of, dare I say, value, maybe I could see that being $30, but just for a higher resolution, I don't know. I think updates like that should be free to anyone who owns the game. Sony charged PS5 users only $10 for some specific games, and they gave away upgrades for other games for free. Microsoft took it another step further and automatically gives you upgrades for free all the time. Also, I think it's important to include new news on the Switch 2, or I guess new news. As of Friday, April 4th, Nintendo has released a statement in regards to tariffs, saying that they have indefinitely postponed pre-orders for the Switch 2 in the United States, and here's a quote from Nintendo. Pre-orders for Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will not start April 9th in order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and the evolving market conditions. Anyways, now it's time for my personal opinion, the section you have all been patiently waiting for. How do I feel about the Switch 2? Well, I wanted the Switch 1 ever since it first came out, and a year ago for Christmas, my entire family pitched in to buy me a Switch. I already was priced out of the Switch 1, which was $299 USD, and I am unfortunately definitely priced out of the Switch 2. If you follow me online, you have definitely seen me complaining constantly about the prices of Switch 1 games. I think it is ridiculous that the cheapest Breath of the Wild I can find is $48. I can't even imagine spending $80 on a new game that's for certain going to lag on me when I'm trying to play on my brand new Switch. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Nintendo. I grew up on GameCube Animal Crossing and DSi's Super Princess Peach and random Game Boy Advance games that I don't remember the name of. I love Nintendo characters, I love their franchise, but I simply think $80 for a new game is pricing out a lot of people in their target audience, especially in this current economy. Think about it. Let's say you're buying a Switch 2 and 5 games. Let's even include the Switch 2 Mario Kart World Bundle in this example, so you save that extra, $30. That's $500 plus the 4 games at $80 each. That is $820. For that price, you can buy an entire PC or a Steam Deck, which has way better specs. Now, another scenario. Let's say you're a parent with 2 children. When I grew up, both me and my sibling got a DS. So let's say for this scenario, you want to buy both of your 2 children their own Switch 2 for car rides and camping and travel and all that good fun childhood stuff. Sure, games are now shareable, so you can get away with buying 1 copy instead of 2. But for 2 consoles and 5 games, including the discount for the bundle on one of those, that is $1,270. I also think it's silly when you can hop on like Epic Games or Steam and find beautifully crafted games for cheap and even for free. Like, why would I spend $80 on a new Mario Kart when I can get a free Epic game every Thursday? Why would I spend $80 on one Switch game when I can buy 8 brand new games and experiences for my PC on Steam? And yes, I know Nintendo stores carry non-Nintendo games and they're adding more brands to their shop, but people aren't buying the Switch just to play indie games. They're buying the Switch 2 for Nintendo to play Nintendo games. Having these other brands in the shop is just this added bonus. In terms of game prices, I have this problem already with my current Switch. So I've had it for a year now, right? And I simply just can't afford any new games. Like, if you look at my home screen, I have Animal Crossing, Fortnite, Mario Wonder, Fae Farm, My Time at Sandrock, and Pokemon Violet. Every single one of these games was gifted. That's 6 games, and well, Fortnite is free. If I bought the Switch 2, I can guarantee you my home screen would be completely empty. Except for Fortnite. Let's be real now. I think a lot of people are feeling this financial burden right now too. Like, we love gaming. It's an escape, it's a hobby, it's a source of happiness, but slowly we're getting priced out of it. And that's scary for a lot of us. A very real concern for a lot of us right now too is that other gaming companies are going to follow lead on this price hike. Like, what is stopping other gaming companies from seeing Nintendo sell their games at $80 and thinking, maybe I can increase my prices too. And yes, I know people are going to buy the new Switch and the new Nintendo games anyways. I know they're going to buy all of the accessories, and that is totally okay. If it makes you happy, if it's in your budget, then do it. I think that is so wonderful for you, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you tell me all about it, and I hope you show me your Animal Crossing village if there's a new Animal Crossing game. This is just my personal standpoint and my personal opinion on it as someone who, doesn't have a ton of disposable income. Instead of investing in the Switch 2, I honestly would put that money towards like enhancing my PC or even building a brand new PC. And if you really wanted like a new to go handheld, system, I would invest in the Steam Deck. Like, you can pick one of them up for a pretty decent price now on the secondhand market. And they have thousands of games available at affordable prices at your fingertips. And now for my conclusion. Is $449 USD for the Switch 2 worth the price? For a console with 250 gigabytes, last-gen graphics, a lackluster launch game list, and a price hike for each game by a minimum of $20, and amid mass competition with other handheld consoles, some of which are a lot cheaper by the way, Nintendo definitely has a tough hill to climb on with this new release. This pricing strategy is definitely bold for Nintendo. If you guys remember, when the 3DS launched originally in 2011, the price was actually set to $249. Nintendo realized just after 6 months that the price was too high and it had to be lowered to account for better customer expectations. So it was lowered to $169. Personally, I think I'm gonna wait and see what happens. What do you think? What do you think about the Switch 2? Are you going to buy it? What do you think of the Backlash? I really would love to know. Anyways, I'm your favorite Angel VTuber. My name's Mel, my pronouns are they, them, and I occasionally stream on weeknights if you ever want to join me for stream. If not, totally cool, totally valid. And maybe join me on YouTube for more videos? Okay, anyways, bye. Here's my tongue boop. Boop.